How's it going, everybody? David Hedge here, House Hedge Gaming. And last week, I took a look at Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth, one of the newest sets for Magic the Gathering that is coming out in June. And I figured that if I'm going to look at that set, I need to start looking to the near future, which is in April, March of the Machine, and the stories that are coming out from Wizards of the Coast that is showing the culmination of the Phyrexian Invasion that has been taking place over the past few years. We have seen Phyrexians just start sporadically popping up. We didn't know why until Phyrexia all be one. We saw Vorinclex in Kaldheim. We saw Jin-Gitaxias in Kamigawa. We saw Urbrask in New Capenna. And we saw Sheoldred in Dominaria before we finally got reintroduced to Elesh Norn, the Grand Cenobite, the Mother Machines in Phyrexia all as one. So I want to take a look at the stories that have been released so far. But before I do, we need to catch up. Alright, so to bring you up to speed real quick, Phyrexians are a force to be reckoned with in the world of Magic the Gathering, where they believe perfection is flesh and metal all as one. And we haven't seen this big bad in quite some time since New Phyrexia many years ago. We have seen the Eldrazi come and go, we have seen Nicol Bolas taken down at the War of the Spark, but slowly but surely we have started to see the Phyrexians pop up in different planes. And like I said in the intro, we've seen these different Praetors coming up in all of these different storylines and all these different planes, but we didn't know exactly what they were doing until now. So Vorinclex grabbed a hold of some of the sap from the World Tree in Kaldheim. So Elesh Norn can make their own World Tree called Realmbreaker to connect all the realms and all the planes of the multiverse. We had Jin-Gitaxias and Kamigawa trying to figure out if there was a way to Phyrexianize planeswalkers, and unfortunately, he found a way because his first one was Tamiyo. Then we had Urbrask on New Capenna trying to figure out a way to stop Elesh Norn because Urbrask does not believe in all to be one. He believes that you do your thing, I'll do mine, and we'll be just fine. You don't get in my way, I won't get in your way, we're good. And then finally you had Sheoldred pop up in Dominaria as basically a harbinger of doom as the first initial wave of the invasion started, where it all began in Dominaria. But now we get to the present where Elesh Norn has defeated the Gatewatch, defeated the attack team. She was prepared for what they were going to do in New Phyrexia with a protective barrier around the plane that would distort the planeswalking abilities of these planeswalkers. And they got split up into different areas throughout Phyrexia. And we saw where Jace, he got turned thanks to Vraska, who was turned earlier. You had Nahiri get turned. Luca got turned because he was an idiot and he bonded with a Phyrexian beast. And you saw Nissa get turned as well. And Nissa was a grand addition. The 4 out of the 5 Phyrexian planeswalkers now that got turned were in Elesh Norn's plan. Luca was a bonus, but well, we found out what she thought of him later. But Elesh Norn is there, and they are celebrating their victory. And they have Kaya, Kaito, and Tyvar in their presence. And before you know it, Elesh Norn, before this invasion begins, she starts to give them one more chance. Go like, hey, you can join me. I'll be more than glad to make you the one. Instead of the many who are going to fall and be the one anyway, I'm giving you a choice. And each one of them said, no, thank you. We do not want that at this present time. So while this was going on, you see Sheoldred being brought to Elesh Norn by Ajani, who was a sleeper agent back in Dominaria United, and with Luca, Nahiri bringing up the rear. And you see Jace, who is there, but then again, he leaves because he already knows what his next assignment is going to be. And the surviving planeswalkers of the attack team find out what happens when you betray Elesh Norn. Elesh Norn believed that the thinking of Elesh Norn is that of their own, but not for the betterment of Phyrexia. Elesh Norn did not like this, and they told Ajani to execute the betrayer. And in one swoop of the axe, one strike of the axe, Sheoldred was the first casualty of this invasion before it even began. While this was happening, the other planeswalkers being held in place by the magic of Nahiri and the stones, her Lithomancer powers are still really good. And luckily, they were able to find a way to escape. And basically, they were allowed to escape because Elish Norn wants them to be the teller of the uh, what's getting ready to happen to these planes. Go like, hey, you spread the word, we're coming, and everybody, all will be one, whether you like it or not. And so they got released. And then you get to see the Realm Breaker in action. And it starts connecting to all these different planes. And for a brief moment, you see their pristine skies, you see their beautiful waters, you see the picturesque landscapes, but all of a sudden they start turning red. And you start seeing oil start to sink into the earth and into the waters. And the roots of the Realm Breaker tree starting to burst forth and starting to take root into these planes. And thus the invasion begins. Now, for the invasion to begin, Elish Norn orders the completed planeswalkers to go back to their home planes and lead the invasions there. So you have Ajani going to Theros, you have Nahiri going to Zendikar, which, by the way, she knows that there's a lithiform engine that can be reactivated and be very helpful during the Phyrexian Invasion. You have Luca going to Ikoria, and Tamiyo comments to Elish Norn, hey, you know he's probably going to die, right? He's pig-headed. He rushes in. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. If he dies, we'll use him for parts. They're already doing it for Sheoldred. Might as well go ahead and do it for him too. And then Tamiyo goes to Kamigawa, and Elish Norn just watches from New Phyrexia as the invasion of these planes begin. Now, while all this is happening, we go to the ruins of Vest Manor in Dominaria, where Chandra, Liliana Vest, and others are waiting for the attack team to come back. And once they do, they find out that most of their friends are now Phyrexianized, that they're gone. And Chandra gets extremely ticked off about this, especially when she hears that Nissa is part of the Phyrexians now. But she is comforted by Ren and Seven, and Ren and Seven informs them about the Realm Breaker tree being a living entity in New Phyrexia, to where they can hint at what their song is from the tree, and Ren has an idea of going to New Phyrexia and dropping Seven and combining with the Realm Breaker tree. Now, if they're able to do this, they should be able to close the portals, the link that the Realm Breaker tree has with the multiverse. So Chandra and Ren and Seven are going to try and do this without the knowledge of anybody else in the Gatewatch. But you know what? When love's involved, I completely understand. Meanwhile, the rest of the Planeswalkers in the Gatewatch are going to be going back to their home planes and other planes to try to defend them from the Phyrexian Invasion. And this is where things start to get really interesting, because all the while this is happening, you see in the story at the last bit of it in episode 2 that there is a watcher. They're going like, hey, can we interfere? And like, no, not yet. The end hasn't come yet, but we'll get there. And when we do, that's when we interfere. We don't know who these people are. It might be some other oath organization. Might be some big deities coming up. We won't know until later on, but all I know is I'm very intrigued of what these watchers are going to do when the time comes. All right, so episodes 3 and 4 of this story arc, which I'll include the links below in the description so you can read the whole thing. I know I'm giving like a little synopsis of everything. This starts talking about what's happening on each battlefield. So we're going to go to the big one first in Kamigawa. Kamigawa is being attacked by Phyrexians. What a shock. But Tamiyo is there leading them. And we finally get to see the power of the scrolls that she has, that she swore she would never open. But one by one, she starts reading the story of Urza and the rise of the Phyrexian power. Doing so changes the landscape of Kamigawa to better fit the needs of Phyrexia. To the point to where, with the addition of the Phyrexian assault teams that are attacking, Beseju, who endured, who sheltered all, was destroyed. And now you have the Kami spirits and you have the humans, everyone trying to fend off the Phyrexian invasion, while Tamiyo keeps weaving this tale from her scrolls. Now, Kaito and Kaya are there. Kaya was originally going to go back to Ravnica, but she wanted to help Kaito out because of Tamiyo being a major threat in Kamigawa. And they were trying to come up with a plan to stop Tamiyo from reading these scrolls. All the while they're doing this, they encounter a rat child which from the Nezumi, but this Nezumi was called Nashi. And Nashi is the child of Tamio, calls her mother. And during all this, the Wanderer finally comes back after wandering, and they now have a plan to try and stop Tamio from reading these scrolls. Nashi wants to talk to her, but if that doesn't help, then they're going to go to plan B, which is just a full-out assault on Tamio, because they think, you know what, she's a planeswalker, but she reads stories. She doesn't have attacks. She's not very skilled with a blade, so how bad could she be? Pretty bad. Pretty bad. So when they finally confront her, Nashi starts to try talking to her, and there's glimpses of Tamio there, but they're not really able to come through. And so the Phyrexianized Tamio continues on with her mission. Now you have Kaido and Kaya trying to do what they can to stop Tamio, but Tamio is using the scrolls as weapons, basically using them to capture and to harm, to inflict pain, you name it. She's using these scrolls like they were swords. But during this fight, in a flash of light, the Wanderer comes in and strikes down Tamio, making her the first planeswalker to die as she is struck down and stopped by the Wanderer's blade, all in front of Nashi. Now, they all have to try to keep reminding themselves this isn't Tamio. This was no longer Tamio, but as we all know from reading the stories, or if you didn't know, I'll tell you now, the planeswalkers that are Phyrexianized do retain a little bit of their soul and a little bit of their memories. So even though they have to keep telling themselves that's not Tamio, deep down they know they had to destroy a friend. But there is a heartwarming thing at the end of the story where there is a scroll that opens up as a last will and testament, if you will. And it's the story of Tamio being told, and it gives a little bit of closure to Nashi and closure to Kaido and them. But at the end of that story, it does talk about how Phyrexia is going to meet its end, and that is because of a warrior in white. So, Elspeth is coming for you, Elish Norn. You're going to have nightmares because of Ashiok, but Elish Norn is going to send you right to Dreamland by the time it's all said and done. All right, the next one we go to Kaldheim. Tyvar arrives at Kaldheim, and it is not good. You see Phyrexians fighting dwarves and elves and humans. And it looks like a really good Lord of the Rings thing. Tied in from last week. But they're attacking the World Tree. And they're trying to basically cut that down and stop it from linking all the other parts of Kaldheim together. During this, we do find out that there are some completions that take place in Kaldheim. Now, we do get to see that Toski, Sarulf, and Koma, three mythical beasts that are a part of the Kaldheim lore, have been Phyrexianized. Koma, this giant serpent, this indestructible squirrel in Toski, and this giant wolf are now serving Phyrexia. And it's not looking good for Harold and Tyvar and the rest of the residents of Kaldheim at this point in time. In Kaladesh, we see the fall of the Skyship Sovereign and the attack on the Aether Reserves, while Pia Nalara is reunited with some old friends to help fend off the Phyrexians there. And finally, we see what happens in New Capenna, where Atraxa is starting to take foothold in New Capenna, but while they are being able to get these new warriors that are rising up, new Phyrexians, she's hearing voices, and the voices she's thinking they're from the angels, they're the statues, and her forces are starting to destroy the statues. What the statues were angels that were trapped for quite some time, and she's still trying to fight those voices and all. And it's definitely a sight to behold and a sight to read. All the while, you have these watchers watching everything that's happening, all these planes going like, can we now? Not yet. Please hold. We'll get there soon enough. But the question is, when? When is soon? Because right now it's looking pretty dire by the way of all this stuff that's going on with the March of the Machine set unfolding and the story arcs unfolding, and the invasion of Phyrexia has just begun. Well, there you have it. That is the first 4 stories summed up. I didn't go in complete detail. There are other qualified people on here on YouTube that does that. Magic Arcanum, Aether Hub. You can check those 2 places out. You can also check out Wizards of the Coast website for the complete stories. I just want to give you my takes on them and summarize them real quick. And my take is, holy crap. No, Wizards was right. Wizards said that March of the Machine was going to be a story that will shape Magic forever. Now, we were promised this a little bit in War of the Spark years ago when all the Planeswalkers were summoned to Ravnica at Nicol Bolas's behest, so he can cast the Elder Spell and try to become a god. That didn't work out, and only 3 Planeswalkers were destroyed during that. Domri Red for blindly following Nicol Bolas and getting his spark taken out. Dak Faden was one of the first ones that was attacked when the Elder Spell was read. And then finally, Gideon Jura was destroyed because he sacrificed his life for a friend. But in this storyline, right off the bat, Sheoldred, gone. Tamiyo, completed and then gone. Boseiju, destroyed. You see the World Tree being attacked. We didn't know if it was fully destroyed yet, but it has been attacked. We see Phyrexianized Toski, Sarov, and Koma. We see the Skyship Sovereign destroyed. The Aether reservoirs are being attacked. We don't know why. And then finally, Atraxa is being tormented by voices on New Capenna. So right off the get-go in the storyline for the first 4 episodes, there's so much that is going on. And it's going to be really hard keeping up because we still got to check out what's going on at Ixalan, what's going on back on Dominaria, what's happening in Chandalar, what's happening in Eldraine. Like, all these different planes are being attacked. And so now we get to see what's happening and see what each one of these planes are doing to help prevent damage to their homes. But we know that some of these places are going to be changed forever because in Theros, we saw Heliod has been completed. So we don't know what other gods will be completed in Theros. We know that in Zendikar, Omnath finally gets that 5th color, but it's not the way we want it to be. And he's now Phyrexianized. We know that on Innistrad, Sorin has been planning for the invasion. And we don't know what his plans are on Innistrad. Maybe it involves a moon and a certain technical monster involved. But we don't know. But we do know that this is going to be a changing event in Magic the Gathering's history. And is definitely going to warrant the Aftermath set. Because I know some people were complaining when they announced March of the Machine and March of the Machine Aftermath. They're like, oh, here we go. Wizards trying to do another set and trying to get money. And yeah, that might be it. But you know what? For this circumstance, it's warranted. Because what else are you going to do when you have all these different things happening throughout the multiverse and you're trying to cram it all in one set? So having the Aftermath set to let you know where everything stands after this invasion. Like, what are the lasting implications of this invasion? Like, what's going to be left standing? Like, we now know that Kamigawa is completely changed. Like, it's not the Kamigawa that we loved. It's now, you see the Phyrexianization of it has begun. You see that Kaldheim is starting to change a lot more. You see that the Aether hubs are getting attacked. And if those get blown up, that's pretty much like bombs going off everywhere. So that can completely destroy Kaladesh. So you have all this stuff getting ready to transpire throughout the multiverse. And we're just getting started with the invasion. And the question is, where's it going to stop? And hopefully we find that out this week. Because the story right now has been really good. And hopefully you guys like my little synopsis on everything. So thank you guys for checking out this video. If you like it, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to let everyone know that House Hedge Gaming is here for all of your gaming needs. So until next time, guys, stay safe and take care.